7 Songs for Life. It's my biggest production to date, and this is probably going to be my biggest behind the scenes video to date. Where did it begin? For me, it started back in 2021, sometime around making an originally standalone music video called Her Smile. I later made a little rap video just for fun, where I utilized some of a poem that Jordan Peterson put out on social media. For those who don't know him, Jordan Peterson is a relatively well-known public intellectual and psychologist. He's written a number of very influential books that have been translated into dozens of languages, and he's been an influential thinker for a good handful of years now on the world stage. He's not without controversy, and some people don't like him, but his books have been very helpful for me. The video was shared by him and his daughter and a number of other people. It set me into a bit of a trajectory for writing these 7 songs. I didn't want to just make short form little dinky content. For those who follow my music know that I tend to like deep things, and, elaborate things. And the goofy video was cool and it was shared and I was happy about that, but I don't feel like it was reflective of what I could do as an artist. But on a bigger front, I wanted to examine some of the ideas in his books, the ones in particular that had a lot of impact on me. And those are the 7 rules, the 7 songs that I wrote. I made the video because I went to go see Jordan Peterson down in Calgary for a public lecture that he was putting on, and he had canceled, or they had to cancel him. This was May 12th of 2022. I was suddenly struck with the idea for the whole video. I started to piece together, what if there was a narrative that I put to these songs? What if there was something bigger, complementary to it? A sequel to Her Smile. And it seemed at the time really ambitious, like I don't know how I was going to get it done. I felt like every aspect of it would be a challenge in a way, and it certainly was. But I knew that before I could take anything on, I had to start getting people on board. And the first person that I asked was Xen. How did you get involved, and why did you get involved with this project, 7 Songs for Life?
Why? I don't know about that question. I still don't know the answer to it. Well, you asked me. I talked about this before, but I have this little fear in my brain that's like, you're gonna miss out on this opportunity, and this opportunity is never gonna come again, and you're gonna spend the next 30 years regretting that you just said no. So I just said yes. That's a really good difference between us, though. You really wanted to be an actor.
Really
you had it planned and everything. For me, it was always a little child fantasy. I talked about this before, but when you watch an action movie, you're like, man, I want to do something like that. That's so cool. They're being so cool. You watch Spider-Man one time, you're like, pew, pew, pew. You're like, yeah. You're already imagining yourself. You're in the bathroom mirror, you're doing that. And it was always kind of this hidden thing that I was like, oh, it's personal to me. And then you get offered this acting role, and you're like, am I dreaming? Is this real?
Yeah.
Got a bunch of blood on you there.
Welcome to the party, kid.
Kevin has these fantastic stories that I could listen to for hours, and I don't know, kind of want to be in one of those stories when he tells them.
This little, soft, very young teenager walks into the club. In jiu-jitsu, you get smashed. You know this. You get smashed all the time when you're new. And we had a bunch of tall, strong farm girls, and they just picked her apart. And she showed up the next day. I'm like, kid's got some grit.
I've stepped out of my comfort zone before, but this is something that is so much bigger and something that I never imagined myself doing, that I was like, I should try it.
To see the level of talent you were able to bring out of her, she looked like a natural. I was like, look at her go. I gotta get her signature before this is over. This is awesome.
Yeah. No, I think a fun story that we can tell is about when we were filming that arguing scene.
Yeah.
And how I didn't know how to direct you exactly, but I was like, we're basically arguing about this. If you want, you can get in character, like, because this is what they're going to be arguing about, or not.
Or not,
and
that's
you're kind
what I
of
did.
like, or not. You know, you could argue about anything.
I started yelling about a pickle.
You told me that there was pickles in the fridge. You told me that we had pickles. We had them in a jar in the fridge, and we had pickles. Why would you not have pickles out here? You're keeping me here without the pickles, and I've been here my whole life without pickles.
And after talking to Xen, it of course led to Kevin. I needed a bad guy, and
You thought of me.
yeah. I was thinking about combat a lot, and I wanted to think about how to level up the fight techniques. And that was another reason why I had asked you, because like I didn't know if you could act. I felt like you could act because I saw you be an instructor in front of people. And yeah, you have like this charismatic, dramatic flair. Like you're a black belt and you have training. You're a double black belt? Yeah, so you have multiple martial arts trainings. I thought it'd be great to have you as a bouncing board, and you were more than a bouncing board. Like you were integral to the structure of many of the moments of these fights.
And as you would describe the story, I could see it in my head. Then I would bounce the ideas back at you, and you were like, yeah, or no. So
I can point to clear moments in the film that I distinctly remember were your idea. Like throwing the tomahawk, for instance, where my guy would pick up the tomahawk and throw it at your guy, and you would use another dude to block it.
when I watched that scene back, I was like, boom!
It's dangerous, well, as we know, like, because I blew my hand up.
Oh, fucking shit.
You okay?
No.
Yep.
Our coordinator did everything right, but we still messed it up. I'm sorry.
Then with the chain, I was like,
Oh yeah, grabbing the chain with the blistered hand.
and you were like, well, you gonna pull me? I was like, are you sure? Like, this is a bad idea. I can pull you, but it's gonna hurt. And you're like, well, it needs to. Okay, Skipper, it's up to you.
In theme with using real tomahawks, real weapons, I mean, we wanted to keep everything as practical as possible. From arrows sticking out of people's heads and bodies to blood effects, some minor aging makeup to the knife, even the rabbit.
I went out the night before thinking I would maybe get one then, and I actually didn't find any, so I was kind of a little bit worried. And then in the morning I went out and it took about, I don't know, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I shot a rabbit.
I hadn't had rabbit since I was a kid, and I didn't know how I was going to taste because we fried it up in oil, and a bit of Mrs. Dash
Yeah.
was all that we used, but it was really good. Like me and my brother Reed, I think, had quite a bit. So it goes up to your lip. Okay. The emphasis on practical effects is definitely a trademark of a zero budget phenomenon, like what we were working on. You're in part trying to save money, so that's why you go with things that are practical. Getting a practical rain shot was an interesting challenge. So we have this powerful scene where you're standing in the rain, getting just
Sorry.
soaked, you're getting drenched by this,
Yeah.
rain cloud. I know. Tell the fine people who are listening here what that process was like.
So, first of all, I'm standing on Spencer's garage. There's Becky, Archery, and then her dad, Doug. And I was warned about how we're gonna film this. Like Spencer was like, okay, we probably won't find rain, so we're gonna have to do with the hose. And I was like, I remember hearing this and I was like, are you serious? Like, are you serious?
I actually gotta get really freaking low. Okay, ready? You got this. Channel it.
I want to squeeze my whole shirt.
Don't do it. Hoser! It turned out perfectly, and I got the lightning shot as well, which was really
The
cool.
lightning shot looks awesome. Like
Yeah.
when I saw it, I was like, wow.
And the lightning was a huge gift. A storm came toward Edson when I was editing, and it was the last shot I needed. I had stock footage in place for this lightning shot, and it wasn't the best. I just kind of tried to color match it, and I really wanted Xen her character to be looking off, and then you see this lightning flash. But this storm approached, and as it was getting closer and I'm editing and it's the last shot, I just had this idea like, oh snap, what if I could catch it? I had to cut the storm off a little bit. I had to go north and west, and it was this whole thing. And eventually I found a spot that I thought it'd be good to look at. Just turned it on, and I'm looking over, and the sky is too yellow because it's still evening and the sun is out. So thankfully I, turned it to the left where it was darker and grayer. And right after I turned it, just boom. Something else real practical was the Ratrod. Ian was an extra on the film. He was the guy who got shot in the head, and he was awesome. But beyond that, he was also the real guy behind that post-apocalyptic vehicle. He worked and designed and built that all himself. And I was talking to him about this project, about this post-apocalypse, and he was like, man, I love post-apocalyptic. In fact, I'm building this post-apocalyptic style vehicle, and it's right here in the shop. And so I walked over, and it was nuts. It was crazy. It was such serendipity. I asked if I could write a part for it, Yeah, that vehicle is real, and it's freaking awesome, and I kind of wish we showcased it even more. But after all these practical effects that were a lot of fun to problem solve and work on, there was one that I could not come up with a solution for. I wanted to literally show one person getting shot on screen, and I couldn't figure it out, so I went to my buddy Daniel for help.
Hi, this is Daniel Grove, and I'm the VFX artist that did a Arrow-killshot and the music video. And Spencer, thank you so much for bringing me on board. This is a blast to work with you. We did a previous music video where I helped add a tattoo to his back, and that went great. It was, again, something I had to learn to make work, to make it happen, and it was amazing. So actually we did a test shot first, where he just shot an arrow at a target, at a person, or actually at himself. It was a double screen. I made it work, and it looked great. So I said, okay, I got this. I think I can pull this off again. So he sent me over the real footage for the music video. I put that video file into my 3D program called Blender, and on top of that I modeled the arrow based on some reference photos that he sent me, which really helped. So once I had a replica, a 3D replica of the arrow in my 3D program, I was able to keyframe or animate it shooting from the shooter, from the bow into the target. I add a little bit of an arch like an arrow would really have. As it hits him, I add a little twang, little bounce, and I had to manually keyframe the arrow as he stumbles and falls backwards, so that it falls in 3-dimensional space. So as the arrow sticks into the target that I had for his chest, it booleans and cuts in maybe an inch or two, and it follows him in 3D, which I had to manually keyframe almost every frame, but it wasn't that long. It was only like 100 frames, and I cannot wait to see the finished result. Thank you so much, Spencer, for involving me once again.
And right back at you, Daniel. I know you were watching this, so I just want to say thank you publicly. There are some shots you can't fake, though. Like a slap.
He said, give me a slap. This could mean anything. When I slap people in class, I give them a little tap. This was unacceptable to you. The second one, I got my finger was going for your eye. I'm like, whoa! And I tried to pull it so you didn't gouge your eye out, because I felt that with your hand, that wouldn't help your day any. Then your wife said,
it looked like a pussy slap.
oh, really?
God.
Now, I wasn't aware you didn't hear this.
Yeah, I didn't
She
hear
said it quite loud and almost stridently, like, wow, you suck. Why don't you put some oomph onto this? You said, called for the action.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Hair back. And I gave you everything I had.
Fucking harder, that's
That was
Then it was slap, down, and punches. And I put some stink in those too. I was getting a bit of rib there, and I'm like, oh, I don't care. I'm not getting that direction again. So,
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Another thing you can't fake is technique in shooting a bow.
I remember I was coming home late from work, and it was I don't know, I think it was around 7 or 7:30 that night. I just come off working some overtime, was having some supper when the phone rang. And next thing you know, it's you on the other end of the phone, and I'm like, well, who's this Spencer Richards guy? All right, so what's this all about? And next thing you know, you introduced yourself and what you did, and you were saying that you wanted to do a movie. And I gotta admit, not in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine that I would ever be asked to help out doing something like this.
Because that one was used for Xen, right? Or is that a different
Well,
one
no,
entirely?
this is different than the one Xen used. Xen used a similar bow, a recurve as well.
That's right.
But it was only, let's say, 20-pound draw weight, where this one here is a 65-pound draw weight. So this is the bow that you used in the movie. This is more traditional style bow than the other one. This one has no recurve to it, so it's a less efficient bow. Even though this one pulls harder, it actually causes the arrows to move a little bit slower. It's got these little tufts here, and what that does is as the string comes forward, it tends to vibrate. So what these do is they catch the vibration and take the vibration out of the string in order to make them more quiet. I remember the first time you picked up this bow and you were like, pulling it back, and you're like, oh my God, this thing is so hard to pull. I set up a makeshift wall, and we had Xen come up to the wall and pretend she was playing peekaboo around it with the bow.
Yes.
And going through the process of what would you do if you got to a corner and you had to peek around and look at it and have the bow ready to go. You two working up your muscle memory and your strength in your back and your shoulders to just pull these bow back and to become proficient at what you were doing, so that way you could make it look more realistic in the scenes. It took a lot of effort, and I was pretty proud of you guys, to be honest.
it was an experience. And like you watch movies, you're like, ah. But to watch your process at work, I was like, huh, look at that.
When I was editing, sitting at that desk, sometimes I couldn't even sit sometimes because I was so excited and I was so like, I can't
bouncing
believe
in your
this.
chair.
Yeah, this footage.
There was a really good atmosphere just surrounding the entire project, but because we were able to like joke around about so many things, it was great.
It felt very, very much like we had all bonded very quickly. If we'd had a secret handshake, it wouldn't have surprised me. Like everybody bonded really, really fast.
You know, if you're out there and you get asked the same thing I was asked, you know, take that opportunity to step out of your comfort zone and take the chance and do something you've never done before. Because I think it's going to pay off in the long term. And I think this has for me, and I think in helping you, that was awesome.
So much of this film is about the idea of aim. Like, who are you aiming to be? What are you aiming at in life?
It seems like nowadays a lot of people want to look way down the road and they want to pinpoint and hit that target. But what they don't realize is that there's a bunch of smaller steps, a bunch of different things that you need to aim at along the way. You take the time and you put in the practice and the effort, and it takes the focus, and eventually you do it enough times, you follow the way you're supposed to be doing it, and eventually you start hitting the target more and more and more often. And I think, as you know, for a metaphor in life, is like every time you try to do something, you have to kind of go for those little goals, because a lot of the small ones will add up to the big ones.
I think the story does a good job of showcasing the power that choice can have. And like, trust me when I tell you that if you haven't already, you're gonna have some very big choices in your life. Very heavy choices. And choices a lot like the characters face in this story, and in many cases even more intense. So I guess I just want you to think about that. Like, what are you aiming at? Me? Well, I want to do a feature length someday. We're going to make a sequel for this. It's going to be bigger, badder, and better. I want to make meaningful art. I want to do it full time. I want to be a good husband, good father. I really feel like I know what I'm aiming at in this life. Maybe it'll change, but that's what I want. That's what I think is good for me. That's what I think is going to fit. And all your support, you're watching my videos, whether you literally support through PayPal donations or coming to the movie premiere or supporting by getting involved in my projects and being an actor or whatever, you know, while I have no budget. All of that means the world to me, and I don't take it for granted. Hello?
Supper time.
Supper time? Okay.
That's you?
Yeah. Oh, who's that? Is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Say thank you for watching.
Thank you. All again.